All right, so welcome back to another weekend, another market forecast session. Okay, so next week, right? What are we looking for on ES? Okay, so on the monthly time frame, we have a monthly fair value gap right here. Okay, I would like to note that down. Okay, and then we jump into the weekly time frame. So the monthly fair value gap, it's basically this weekly swing low. I believe we're gonna attack this low next week. Okay, so the next week's objective will be this swing low here. On the daily time frame, it's another swing low as well. We have reached deep into the discount fair value gap, but as you can see, we have SMTs here against Nasdaq, and price reacted off this CB right now. I mean yesterday. So this CB into the breaker, I think. Yep, this is a breaker. So right now, I think the first objective would be this daily fair value gap, after which we'll take out the sell stops. Next week we have CPI. Okay, so I think that should be the driver to drive the price lower, right? So this is for ES. For NQ, right? Same thing here on the monthly time frame. There is a fair value gap, right? On ES, I mean on NQ, I would like to note these two down. Okay, heading into the weekly time frame, we have two swing lows, and this is a weekly fair value gap as well as equal lows. I really like this area for NQ, which is why I am noting it down, and it's also the fair value gap that is within the range of this BPR right here and this breaker. Okay, ultimately I think the breaker is going to be retested. I'm not too sure, but let's see. So weekly, we close below this BC. Okay, so I expect this to be a form of resistance to lower prices down to this swing low minimum. So on the daily time frame, we have this swing low here, right? And below the swing low, we have a liquidity void right here, and also equal lows down here. So I really like this area, right? But first, let's focus on attacking this low first. Okay, so this was the SMT that I was talking about. If you compare it to ES, Nasdaq made a low respecting the CB here, and then price closed and traded below. So I believe the next strong liquidity is here, right? So last week the markets wasn't moving too much, but ultimately we do get some form of bias in non-farm payroll week. So next week should be a easier trading week as compared to the previous 2 weeks. Okay, so that's for NQ, right? Moving on to DXY. Right, so for DXY, price reach up into this bearish order block, right? If price is to be bullish, I would like to see a closure above this weekly fair value gap, right? So what PD arrays do we have in here? We have the daily CB, and then right now it's trading back up and coming back down into some form of a BPR here, right? If you draw this um, level across, okay, this fair value gap, it was utilized before, right? So I expect this to be support for price to go higher okay, into the swing highs here. Ultimately, I think here is the better draw on liquidity, because on the monthly time frame you can see that it's a swing high right below a monthly fair value gap. So this is a very nice area to target. Okay, we traded all the way into the monthly CB, BC, right, and then reacted off, which is a very nice reaction here, right? So yeah, um, further upside for DXY. That's what I'm anticipating. What changes if price is able to close below this weekly CB? Okay, then everything changes. So yeah, so far it's not looking like it's going to do so. Furthermore, it has already closed above the consequent encroachment of this fair value gap as well. Okay, on the weekly time frame. So that's for DXY. Bullish for DXY, bearish for equities so far. Okay, so let's move on to gold. So if DXY is to be bullish, gold, I'm expecting some form of bearishness. So where can I expect gold to retrace to? Okay, we have the mean threshold of this order block. I do not want to see this low taken out. Okay, if this low is taken out, then we are most likely trading back into this and probably even this lows here, right? Because it has already took out buy stops. So on the weekly time frame, I can see is that maybe gold might want to trade lower to take out this sell stops here, right? And to remain bullish, I would much prefer gold to stay and close within this fair value gap, okay, preferably the BPR, right? So right now it's more like a wait and see. Gold reacted nicely off this bearish fair value gap, okay, but failed to close back into the fair value gap. I mean the bullish fair value gap. Okay, right. So there is a chance of the correlation, but let's see. Okay, right. So moving on, we have Bitcoin. Bitcoin. Right. So far, nothing much. Um, you might want to test this breaker in this order block. Okay, it's near the consequent encroachment as well. So I'm still looking for 32, right? Otherwise, nothing much has changed for BTC. Okay, let's move on to individual stocks. Starting off with Tesla as usual. Okay, so for Tesla, best if it can retest this breaker. I really like this breaker. Okay, if not this breaker, then maybe take out this swing low, retest this balanced price range here. All right, and then higher into the equal highs and maybe even the swing highs here. Right, it's gonna trade nicely with the Nasdaq. So next we have Palantir. Right, so for Palantir, everything we've outlined, right, trading back into this breaker. Okay, so reacted nicely off the breaker here. So I'm expecting some downside. We have a BPR as well as a breaker. So I like this area for a long, okay, for Palantir. Um, let's check the monthly. Yep, there is a monthly fair value gap here as well. You might want to reach into that. All right, if it's going to be remain, I mean, if it's going to be super bullish, then this area, the BPR here, should be able to support the price, which means no closure below here. All right, it can wick into this area, but no closure below if it's to remain super bullish. So far, it's reacting nicely off this CB here. If you measure it from the swing high to swing low, premium, we're in premium right. Okay, so that's for Palantir. Moving on, we have Meta. But so far, Meta, nothing much though, right? And we have this BPR right here waiting, and this BPR here as well. Let's see how far it wants to retrace to, but so far, I think this is the most bullish stock. Okay, moving on, we have Nvidia. Nvidia so far, I think a retest into that area wouldn't be too bad. Let's use swing low to swing high. Yep, so retesting here would be nice, which means swing lows and swing lows taken out, then higher. I think that would be nice, but uh, it depends if it wants to do so. Let's see. Yeah, this here looks really nice here. Okay, so let's see for Nvidia. I think 500 still in play. Okay, so what changes this if price close below back into the range, this below this previous all-time highs, then maybe we get a deeper retracement. All right. Okay. Lastly, for the U.S. equity, I mean the U.S. companies, we have. Let's take a look at Netflix. Right. Netflix. Right. So far, so good. Trading back up into this area here, reacting off the breaker. Really nice for Netflix here. Um, whether we do get a further downside, I'm not. I mean, I think it's gonna spool higher, in my opinion. So maybe this fair value gap right here on the monthly chart would be nice. What changes this is if a swing low is taken out. I think here, if this swing low is taken out, then I'll be looking at lower prices for Netflix. Other than that, I think it's gonna spool higher. So expecting supports down here, and especially this fair value gap. Okay, on the monthly chart, this fair value gap. I would like to see this balanced price range not traded to anymore. Okay, the price doesn't need to come down into this range here, right? And then it's gonna attack higher. That's what I am anticipating for Netflix. Okay, right. So let's move on to the China stocks. Starting off with, of course, HSI. Right. So the monthly candle closed above this BPR here. So if it is going to be bullish, I am expecting price to come back down, do a retest of the consequent encroachment of wick or this BPR here, right? So right now I think it's closing below here, below the consequent encroachment. So leaning, I'm always leaning bearish based on the price action on HSI, right? If you take a look on the weekly chart, basically it's a seek and destroy, right? And nothing too interesting. But the thing is that it has taken out buy stops. It has left sell stops in place. You have trend line here. So I would like price to attack the lows. Okay, maybe swinging down into this low here, right? If it wants to overextend, I'm looking at this level here. This level here is the monthly volume imbalance right down here on the lower left hand side, right? So that is what I'm looking at for HSI. Okay. really choppy here. So yeah, ultimately I think it's gonna go lower, but we shall see. Okay, so moving on, we have Baba. Monthly chart looks good in terms of the current dealing range. Okay, finally closing above this volume imbalance. So this should not be considered as a um, high probability P raise anymore. Okay, based on the higher time frame, based on the monthly chart, but the lower time frames is still gonna respect that. So for Baba, same thing here. Nothing has changed. Still a seek and destroy, and I'm looking at swing lows here. Okay, into the monthly order block. I mean the mean threshold of the monthly order block, and if it is to lose that, which I would much prefer, attack the equal lows on here. I really like if Baba can attack the equal lows, then buying down here would be your um, I think a generational wealth creation. I do not know, but I think that's the main trend of the words that you use. Okay, so if price can trade down here before going up, that would be the best scenario, right? You accumulate your shares below, and then you run it back up into just the equilibrium, would do you a pretty good decent amount. So if that's the case, you use the projections from the swing highs. Let's just say it drops here, right? This would be your target from here. It's at least a sixfold, right? So it's very, very nice for accumulation of power. Okay, so moving on, we have JD. JD, same thing here as Baba, I mean, and HSI, chop, lots of chop. Alright, I don't see anything here except for this liquidity void that it might want to draw out into, but I do not like how the lows are forming down here, right? And at the same time, we have relative equal lows down here as well. So current order flow is bearish. I'm gonna remain on in that order flow. Okay, so lastly, I think last two, we have New and Tencent. Let's jump right in. New, nothing that I would really like. Yeah, but so far, if I was to force an opinion, I think this area here should not be traded through. Okay, it should be used as support. Balanced price range here. The gap, and it's a gap. So yeah, below here bearish, up above here bullish till certain inefficiencies are filled. Examples are right here. Okay, that's for new. And lastly, we have Tencent. Very similar to HSI, just chop. On the monthly chart, it's easier to engage here. We have left the lows here, so I believe it's going to come back down, but this current price action does not give me anything, but I think it's eventually going to come back down here. Okay, that's my bias, and I'm going to stay on that bias. And I think that's it for this weekly video, and I'll see you guys in the next one, right? And I'll just give you what's a good, I mean, where am I looking at on the higher time frames for equities. Okay, So for ES, preferably if I am a so-called long-term investor, I would like to buy here. My best buy would be in this area and slightly below. Okay, if it can reach into this fair value gap and this volume balance, that would be the best. But I think this area here, mainly this fair value gap, I really like and love to accumulate down here to ride it up to all-time highs. Okay, so how far all-time highs can go? How far above? Okay, we have 5,092, right? And 5,410. That's my projections. So far, as you can see, it's not closing above 2.5 standard deviation just yet. Okay, but order flow seems bullish, and then we have a breaker down here. So I'm expecting, even if it is not going to all-time highs, I'm expecting some form of reaction of the breaker. Okay, that's for ES. NQ, similar. We have the lows here and the breaker here, and I would love this area. This BPR, maybe just a dip into this area would be enough. Doesn't have to come down all the way here. It's really bullish for Nasdaq, okay? Or maybe even this swing low would be enough, right? We have a fair value gap down here. Okay, and yeah, I think this area it's a nice opportunity or a nice accumulation level as well. So yeah, for Nasdaq, this area's below here, definitely below here, this swing low. Okay, and then we're gonna ride it up. How far? Here to the previous all-time highs. Okay, whether it makes a higher high, I'm not too sure. This is a fourth standard deviation, so um, it has already closed above the 2.5, so definitely it's gonna reach up to this area. So coming back down, I think this area is a within this area, which means this low here or below this low here would be a nice accumulation, right? This is a best entry, right? But you don't have to get the best within the two standard deviations. 2 to 2.5 should be enough for you to ride the price higher. Okay, so if that's the case for NQ, and let me just measure ES again. We have 1 and 1.5. Yeah, 1 and 1.5. Yeah, that's within this breaker. So maybe further downside for ES, right? Obviously, ES is not as bullish as NQ on higher time frames, but yeah, right. So NQ here, I really like this area here, all time highs. Okay, and I think that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you found anything insightful or useful, do leave a like. And if you have any questions, leave it in the comment section, and I'll see you guys in the next week. All right, enjoy your weekend, have a great weekend, and signing out.